There's some things about villains, like for some reason I've gotten, being the villain guy at Blue Sky. And for me, it's awesome because actually, when I was a little kid, I was super scared of villains, all the fairy tales and all that stuff. I was scared shitless of the dark, like really, really, really afraid. And the villains of movies, like I remember, like in 101 Dalmatians, Cruella de Vil, she scared
Right.
me so much. She was frightening. So when I got this villain guy assigned to me with Nathan, I started doing some thinking about what's so special about villains, right? And I have like some things written here. But basically, the villains are awesome. I learned that, man, villains are amazing because they're usually the initiators of what's going on. Like, without a villain, there's not really much of a movie, right? They're like big forces of nature that the heroes have to fight against. So they have to be formidable. Without the Joker, there would be no Batman, really. So they're a big part of what's going on. And I like to get into their heads. And actually, the pre-production for Rio was awesome because it was a long pre-production. And I started brainstorming and looking at videos of Cockatoos Online and looking at movie villains that I liked a lot. And I ended up writing 20 plus pages of like the backstory of Nigel. And I really got into the character and who he was and why he was this way. And it really paid off, I think, because whenever I got a shot with him, I could identify and I could relate. I knew where the acting was coming from, where all his emotion was coming from, and how he would respond to stuff. Also, something I really like, and it's something I was trying, like on this test here, this first pre-production test, I was trying to keep him very still, and that's something I love about villains. They're not the goofy characters, they're not the sidekicks or anything. They mean serious business. So what that means is they have to have this aura of being dangerous and this big presence. So for me, a lot of it comes in the stillness, actually. Like less is more. That's so true, especially for villains. So when they turn and they look at you, you don't want to see anything else move. You just want to see their eyes like boring into your soul, and really just like getting you. That's what I was trying here in this test. Like he does this head turn, and there's this long beat where nothing really happens. He's just like looking up and down at him. Like he does the big explosion and then he's just there looking at him and just really intimidating the heck out of him.
Really, the most horrible villains or the biggest villain presence, they don't have to do anything. Their presence is so commanding that they don't need to really flail about and they don't have to shout and stuff. They're just so commanding that they don't have to move a lot. And that's what you're talking about, utilizing some of that stillness to give him that presence.
The snake, where just comes up and it's still, and there's something we're wired to notice these kind of things and be apprehensive of this stuff. For Nigel, I was looking a lot at Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, and especially that first meeting he has with Clarice, Jodie Foster, in the cell, where he's barely not moving. He does some head turns, and then it's so awesome because he has this huge presence, and you're intimidated of him, and he's not doing anything at all. It's all here, it's all in the eyes and the mask, and the stare is so powerful. Yeah, so I found a couple of quotes, and I want to share them with you because they talk about villains. Yeah. So one of the quotes is from Robert Ager. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's like a film critic, filmmaker, very insightful. He has like some very good stuff to say. He says, each film is only as good as its villain. The heroes and the gimmicks tend to repeat from film to film, but only a great villain can transform a good try into a triumph. That's what he says. But basically, I think that's so true. Like the villain has to be above and beyond. He has to be a perfect match for the hero, a perfect force. And for Nigel, he was one bird and he terrorized them all. So that was a great experience. The other quote is by David Lubar. He's also like a film critic. And this talks about the psychology of the villains. And he's saying that the bad guy isn't doing bad stuff so he can rub his hands together and snarl. He may be driven by greed, by neurosis, or the conviction that his cause is just, but he's driven by something not unlike things that drive a hero. So again, villains they're multi-layered, they're multidimensional, and that's awesome.